Now that I have read through the entire Psalm 119, let us talk about it a little bit. As I mentioned in my introduction, it is a psalm praising the law. Now, exactly what that means by the law doesn't mean the law of Moses, doesn't mean the Abrahamic covenant. It doesn't exactly say, but I think we can safely assume that it's talking about the law of Moses, at least to some extent. Now, I did a little analysis here, pardon me, and I went through and I counted all the words that are used that reference the law. Now, not just the word the law, but we also have precepts, statutes, testimonies, commandments, judgments, the word of God, all these things that are ways of referencing the law. And I find it very interesting on how often these things are mentioned. So, for instance, we look through this. There are 21 uses of the word precept. There are 25 uses of the word law. There are 22 statutes. There are 23 testimonies, 22 commandments, 19 judgments, 38 words. In other words, thy word. That phrase, thy word, meaning the word of God, 38 times. Thy ways, God's ways, are mentioned 4 times, and even the term ordinance appears once. If we take all of this together, that's one mention of the law in every single verse on average. Not all the verses actually mention the law, but some of them mention it more than once. So we are averaging once per verse. Of 176 verses, once per verse. Or 8 times per stanza. That's a lot of mentions of the law. But it's not just that. Each of these things actually means something slightly different. So, for instance, the law, I think that's a reference to the law of Moses. The statutes, now that's talking about individual things, not just the law as a whole, as a kind of an abstract concept of the law, but individual statutes, individual parts of the law. The commandments, the statutes and the law, those are the law, but the commandments can also be things that are not directly in the law, but are just what God has commanded people to do. So, for instance, the law of Moses is given basically in the book of Leviticus, but it is in Numbers and Deuteronomy that the people were commanded to drive the Canaanites out, to destroy them completely. It's not part of the law that they destroyed the people, that they destroyed the Canaanites, but it was a commandment of God. In addition, precepts. Precepts are not laws. They're not even commandments. They're not even statutes. Precepts are principles. These are the things upon which the law is based, the principles that uphold the law. The testimonies aren't the law themselves, but they are what teach the law. They are those who understand the law and explain it to others. So the testimonies of God is God teaching his law to man. And then the word of God, that's just a general, all-encompassing, God said it. So we have all these different aspects of law, order, precepts, commandments, all these things, and they are hardly a verse. Out of 176 verses, very few verses don't mention some form of law, commandment, the word of God in some way. This is a psalm so dedicated to praising the law that it is astounding, quite honestly. I think it's just fascinating how much that this psalm praises the law of God. And there are other indications here of just how much the psalmist who wrote this did love the law of God. Because he talks about, he doesn't say, show me thy salvation. Doesn't say, he says, save me, O Lord, show me thy salvation. No, he says, save me, O the Lord, teach me thy statutes. Make me understand thy testimonies. He mentions the salvation of God on occasion, but it is always through the law that salvation is made possible. Now that is fascinating stuff. This is what he's saying. He's saying here, because I have kept thy precepts, I can trust thy word that I will be saved. I can trust in thy judgments. Remember, the judgments, that's another part that I forgot to mention. The judgments aren't laws. That's what is applied by the law. Either you are punished or you are rewarded, blessed. And he says frequently, because I have kept thy law, because I know thy statutes, because I love them, because I do not depart from them, I can trust your word that your judgments will be righteous and that I will be blessed. And it all comes back to that, the law of God. God has given his law. And because we have his law, we know what the judgments will be because he has spelled it out for us. We have his statutes, we have his commandments, and if we follow them, we know what the result will be because he cannot go back on his word. He is perfectly righteous. His judgments are perfectly righteous, and we know this. We can trust this. And then the psalm also frequently makes comment of the wicked, those who turn against the law, being cursed. They walk in darkness. They are the oppressors. They are the ones that torment the righteous. Now, I'm not going to go back to individual verses, but if you pay attention to it, you can see this. Those who are cursed, those who are the wicked, they are the ones that do not obey the law. Those who are blessed, the righteous, obey the law. It is not that, I believe in God and so I am righteous. It is, I believe in God and so I will follow his law, and that makes me righteous. At the same time, he also mentions more than once that he does not keep the law perfectly. He strives to. But he's not perfect. The psalmist is not perfect. He loves the law. He strives to keep it all the time. If he was keeping it perfectly, he wouldn't be striving for it. It would just be, I keep thy law. But, he is working at it, as we must work at it.
What about the dog?
On a final note, there are a number of places where he does say, bless me and I will keep your statutes. Bless me and I will keep your testimonies. And some reading this might think that this is the psalmist saying, well, I'm not going to keep your commandments unless you bless me. Bless me first and then I'll keep your commandments. But given the full context and everything else that is being said here, that would be a very, that would be a false reading of what's being said. It's not saying that I will not keep your commandments until you bless me, but saying that because I know you will bless me, I will keep your commandments. Because I have that trust in you. You will bless me. No doubt about it. And because I have that assurance, I will keep your commandments. In all, it is a beautiful psalm.